Hello, and welcome to another episode of Todd Talk. When Todd Talks, people listen, hopefully. And today we have a preview of what might just be one of the most unique and interesting and potentially awesome battles in death battle history. Danny Rand, the Iron Fist, versus Po, the Kung Fu Panda. I know why they're doing this, but it's still funny. So why don't we just get right into it? Because this might be a long one, which I always say I'm not gonna do a long one, and then it ends up being like 30 minutes. So let's just get this thing going, shall we? All right, Danny Rand was the son of Wendell Rand, and Wendell's father was once part of a mystical city known as Kunlun. I don't know why Death Bell says Kunlun, it's Kunlun, whatever. So Kunlun is this mystical city that technically lives within a dimensional nexus and only appears on Earth every 10 years. And within this city is a swath of martial artists and dragons. Yeah. So anyway, Wendell was a part of this city. Long story short, he left, got married, had a kid named Danny, and then after the 10-year period, or after a 10-year period, he realized Kunlun was going to come back. So he took his wife, his son, and his business partner, Harold Meacham, and decided to go to Kunlun. Needless to say, things went wrong. The parents died, and Danny was taken in by Kunlun and trained under them. Eventually, he got the opportunity to face the being known as Shao Lao the Undying, which is a dragon slash serpent. And not only did he defeat the dragon by hugging it and getting the dragon scar, he plunged his fist, I said fish would have been hilarious too, his fist into the dying heart of the dragon and was able to get its chi and become the immortal Iron Fist, or also known as the living weapon, and yada yada yada. So, as the immortal Iron Fist, he went back to our world to go and avenge his parents' death. Surprise, surprise! In a very heroic way, he just let Harold Meacham live because he saw he was an invalid, and decided to dedicate himself to being a superhero, which is really easy when you're super rich. So I know it's mean, but it's true. So Danny met a lot of people along the way, including his eternal BFF Luke Cage, aka Power Man, and they made the Heroes for Hire, which were bodyguards and detectives and superheroes that the people could hire to help them in their time of need. He also became an Avenger. He was part of the technically wasn't part of the Thunderbolts. He fought the Thunderbolts, but he's been part of many teams over the years. And there's a really good reason why he's just really great at fighting. You see, he was made to be a living weapon, all right? Every part of him was perfectly trained in many martial arts, not just kung fu, but all sorts of different martial. I'm not going to list them all; they all have interesting names. But he was trained in various amounts of martial arts. And if you recall a certain Spider-Man cartoon, he went up against Captain America, and he was surprised that Captain America knew as many martial arts as him. So that should give you a scale on just how good he is. But of course, his bread and butter is his literal Iron Fist. Now, to be clear, a physical transformation does not an Iron Fist make. Uh, what he does is that he actually channels all of his chi, which is not insubstantial because of killing Shao Lao. He channels all of his chi into that fist, and so the chi enhances his fist or a subsequent body part into. He just uses his fist most of the time into a super weapon that can do just absolutely insane things. All right. Now, originally, all he would usually do was just try and punch people with his iron fist. But then, after meeting, uh, what was it? Orson Randall, no relation to Danny Rand. Orson Randall, who was a previous wielder of the Iron Fist, he was able to read the Book of the Iron Fist, naming, and learned many more techniques that his chi could do. So, for example, he is not only able to enhance his fist to superhuman levels. Now, I gotta say this correctly. Originally, his fist would just make him peak human. But of course, as comics go, you have to get powerful as you go on. So he is able to uh, reinforce his hand with chi to such an extent that it can destroy things that reasonably it shouldn't have. And again, this is Marvel Comics, so reasonably does not exist. So, for example, he once punched a helicarrier to death. He once punched a train that had nuclear bombs on it. It exploded, and he was fine. He he fought a foe with Luke Cage. Luke Cage, who was again super durable because of his own origin story, was punching a bad guy in the face, and it did nothing. Danny came in and punched the guy in the head, and he flew. Okay, and that should say something because again, Luke Cage is one of the stronger street level heroes in the MCU. I'm sorry, well, the Marvel Comics universe. And another thing he do is he can harness his chi for chi blasts. He's not mastered it, but he does know how to do it. He can heal his body, including being near death and healing himself. And he has been able to use his chi to enhance his senses. So, for example, it's specifically stated he could hear a man's sweat in the next room. Why you need to hear that? I don't know. He also has been able to have his back to his opponents and know exactly what they're doing at all times, even as they're rushing at him. So he's got perfect situational awareness. And this says nothing of just his pure striking and fighting ability, because he's gone up with some of the greatest hand-to-hand fighters in all of Marvel, including one very epic comic where they did this like fight with him and Elektra, who is one of the greatest assassins in the Marvel universe, and they did this fight where it was multiple panels, and the next page was lesser panels, then lesser panels, then lesser panels. So he's gone toe to toe with Elektra multiple times. He's beaten Luke Cage, he's beaten Black Panther, he's beaten Captain America, he's beaten Bartok the Leaper. He's killed actual dragons multiple times, including a resurrected Black Dragon where he killed it alongside T'Challa. And he's like I say, he's been an Avenger, he's been a hero for hire, he's been to various spirit realms multiple times, and because of course he's got to resurrect his mother and commune with her spirit, and fight his father who wasn't his father but was actually the one, but not Neo the one. We're not doing this. So needless to say, he's had quite a bit of experience. He's even had to fight other living weapons like himself, and through all of this, Danny Rand's just gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. And it's specifically stated that where he is now as an Iron Fist is leagues above where he was when he began, which again is just how comics usually work. So he has just an incredible I don't know the right word to put it to it. Uh he's a very incredible fighter. All right, and I've only touched lightly on some of his things because his feats are just insane. Like, remember the train feat? I wasn't kidding. Where I said he used his own chi and durability to withstand a freaking nuclear explosion and make it look like it was nothing. All right, and then when I say he punched a helicarrier to death, I really mean it. He punched a helicarrier and destroyed it with one punch. All right, that's not something you're supposed to be able to do. So while he may not be and notice I haven't mentioned the TV show throughout all of this, okay? Because that was an abomination, and you know it. So season 2 was a little bit better, but season 1, so, but needless to say, Danny Rand holds his own no matter the situation, and with his chi, his infinite amount of fighting styles, he can go toe to toe with just about anyone, and he's also a pretty smart guy. Like, not only does he run a bit his business, Rand Corp or Rand Meacham, depending on the timeline. Um, he's a guy who has such a balance within him that he can understand when a situation changes. Like, if you remember Avengers versus X-Men, he sided with the Avengers naturally to go and try and stop the X-Men from using the Phoenix in bad ways or whatever. And when he realized that Hope was much more than she appeared, he actually took her to Kunlun to train in the art of the Phoenix so that, things could get better. And sure enough, it did, and rebirth the entire mutant race. Hashtag Cyclops was right. So he's really wise, and he's not a brash fighter, as you might think, or Iron Fist 1 suggests. So he knows how to take on opponents. He knows how to use his mind to uh, connect with people. He literally could connect his mind to people. He had to connect to Colleen Wig to break a mind control spell over her. He can actually use certain techniques to get rid of poisons and make himself immune to poisons. He actually has multiple techniques that can actually just kill you on contact, which is scary. But yeah, he is the immortal Iron Fist. He's the living weapon, and anybody who comes up against him is they're in trouble. Especially if he forces them to watch the Iron Fist series. Ah! Okay, so Poe. No, I think we can do better. We can do better. Hear the legend of the Kung Fu Panda. Raised in a noodle shop, never seeking glory or fame. He climbed the mountain top and earned the dragon warrior name. Ha! Ho! Ha! Kung Fu Panda! Master Shifu saw the warrior blossom and taught him the secrets of audacious and awesome. Kung Fu Panda. He lives and he trains with the fights with the furious five. Protect the valley, something, 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 something alive. Ha! Ho! Ha! Kung Fu Panda. Legends of awesomeness. Sweet. Yes, I did watch that show. Thanks for asking. So yes, let's talk about Po the Kung Fu Panda. Po, once upon a time, was just a lowly panda living in a village with his family, but a prophecy had been made by a soothsayer. He said that the Lord Emperor Shen, a very evil peacock, was going to be defeated by a warrior of black and white. And so, thinking that this was the pandas, who were actually the originators of Kung Fu in this universe, Shen massacred as many of the pandas as he could. But in doing so, he tipped his hand a little too much, and Poe's mother hid him in a box of radishes and basically sent him away at the cost of her life. Fast forward a little bit, and that radish box was picked up by a goose named Mr. Ping. And as a YouTube commenter wisely said, an actual goose is a better father than Geese Howard. So Mr. Ping was a noodle shop owner, and despite having some reservations, he decided to adopt Po and take him under his wing. Ha ha ha, to become not just his son, but the next owner of the noodle shop. But as Poe grew up, he really wasn't interested. I mean, he could do things in the noodle world, but he felt that his potential was greater and that he wanted to do something else. And this is when he actually saw the Furious Five go and fight a, 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 a foe. He actually was unintentionally the creator of the Furious Five. That's funny how it all works out. So it was then that he realized he wanted to study kung fu. Fast forward a little bit more, and the dragon ceremony was being take place by Master Zhao Um, I can't remember his name now. I should have looked up how to say it. Sorry, it's been a while since I've watched the movies and the show. Anyway, and the master of the temple was there to pick the next dragon warrior, and so everyone, including Master Shifu, thought it would be Tigress. However, it was actually Po, because Po came in flying on a rocket chair, which blew up in midair, obviously, and it was him that he picked. But that was a problem because while Po wanted to learn kung fu, he actually had no clue on how to do kung fu. So what does Shifu to do? That just worked out. I don't know. So naturally, Shifu and the Furious Five did everything they could to dissuade Po into thinking that he could be the kung fu or this dragon warrior, and they failed because he wanted to give it everything that he could, especially with Master is it Zhu Long? I can't remember now. Especially with the Master of the Temple telling him that he was going to be the Dragon Warrior, and that came true because Po had the potential if someone was actually willing to give him the time of day, and that's exactly what Shifu eventually did. And because of that, he developed his own thing called Panda Style, which was using his bulk. He's actually stated to be 6'2", 6'3", 260 pounds. So he used his bulk to make his own fighting style and adhere to his own principles of fighting, as well as learning from Master Shifu. And this came in handy because, as a true dragon warrior, he had to go and fight a whole bunch of foes, and not the least of which were Emperor Shen in the second movie, Tai Lung, who we'll get to in a second, and Kai. And I'm not talking about Legends of Awesomeness, though that is canon, as you can see in the preview, and we'll get to that in a second. But and despite him being basically a novice in many aspects of kung fu, he was able to defeat all of these foes, and that speaks to who Po is as a character. Because while he is a goof, he is a fast learning goof, and even Shifu was amazed by how fast he would pick up things, such as learning how to do a perfect split in order to get some uh, cookies in a shelf. He couldn't do it naturally, but when he focused in his own way to get the food, he was able to do the perfect split. And then when Shifu realized this, he said, "Okay, I'm going to use food to train you," and that's how his Panda Style was truly born. So as he has gone on in his journey, he has learned many things both about himself, why he was chosen to be a Dragon Warrior, and just the history of his world in the first place. So he learned about Emperor Shen and how he wiped out his people. In Kung Fu Panda 3, he learned more about the pandas and how they were still alive. There was a secret village of them. His dad was still alive, and that the Oogway, it was Oogway. The pandas actually taught Oogway the kung fu, and in all of its aspects. So, and through that, he learned his own spiritual and unique techniques. For example, he has learned perfect inner peace, which is was a funny thing when you're talking about Po, because usually think you have inner peace by eating a lot. So he's found inner peace, and because of that, he's able to use the water drip technique, which allows him to perfectly redirect things uh, at people, including their own bodies and massive cannonballs. Fun. Uh, he also has learned key techniques, unlike a certain other person, and has used them in various ways over the course of both the movies and the series, the Legends of Awesomeness series. And this has allowed him to not just be a master; he is a master by the end of the third movie, which takes place after Legends of Awesomeness, to the best of my knowledge. But he also is a teacher now. He's taught both the Furious Five and other students, including his fellow panda brethren. And it is then that he learned the truth about what it means to be a dragon warrior. Because when you hear the name Dragon Warrior, you might think that it means, a powerful warrior who can overcome all obstacles and whatever. But no, Master Oogway realized that long ago that the Dragon Warrior was meant to be the person to revolutionize Kung Fu and bring it into a new life and new way for the next generation. Not unlike what Oogway was when he basically created Kung Fu, according to Shifu, and allowed the Furious Five to develop their own techniques, and then Po to become the Dragon Warrior to develop his, because Po had the potential to change how everyone perceived Kung Fu and how it can be used in the world, both in terms of peace and in conflict. And that's why he, not tigress, not crane, not monkey or mantis or monkey, crane, mantis, viper. There you go. Yeah, I forgot about viper. Sorry. And none of them could do it, but Po, through his rotundness and awesomeness, he was able to do it. That's why he was the Dragon Warrior. Now, in terms of actual fighting, this is where things get a little bit interesting, because you look at him and he's like, no, this guy ain't a fighter, but he actually is, and he's proven it, of course, over the course of the three movies and the TV show, because his first opponent when he was a literal novice was Tai Lung, who was the first student ever to master the 1,000 scrolls of Kung Fu. He's a master of multiple martial arts. He's able to defeat whole armies on his own, as shown in the first movie, and the only person who could defeat him was Oogway. Like, he even was able to go up against Shifu and cripple him, which is why he had the cane. And only Oogway could stop him. But even Oogway admitted that he could not defeat Tai Lung, and his power was enough to actually, in his fight with Po, push him and shatter him through a building, and even hit him so hard that Po created a crater in the spot he was in. So Tai Lung was no joke. He went up against the Furious Five and beat all of them, and used his nerve attack to disable them, despite them all being very capable fighters. And they only survived because he let them. He wanted to go and scare Po, so that he knew that this Dragon Warrior could not topple him. But he did, because of the Wushi finger hold. So you know what happens when I flex my pinky. So, yeah. Fun times. And then when in regards to Emperor Shen, he had created this armada of ships and cannons that would wipe out whole cities and actually killed other kung fu masters. But Po, using the water drop technique, could redirect the cannonballs, and even took one of them nearly head on and survived with only some bruises and being knocked out. So that was pretty cool. And it also stated that pandas are able to use chi to heal themselves, though Poe has not shown this, though you could state that he has it. And and I also note he has mastered chi. He can both use it to form things like a golden dragon. Get it? Dragon warrior. And he actually was able to give it to Kai, who was a spirit being basically, who made zombies, jade zombies called zombies. Yeah, and uh, he infused Kai with so much ki from him and others that it killed him by exploding him, by overloading him, basically. So yeah, he's pretty good. And then there is Legends of Awesomeness. And the reason I wanted to mention this last is that if you only look at the three movies, you might think that Poe doesn't have a lot of techniques outside of the water drip technique and having certain key attacks. But Legends of Awesomeness definitively gave him a larger attack set. I did not rewatch the entire series, obviously, but as the Death Battle preview showed, he does have energy blast attacks. He has his own version of the thunderclap technique. He can channel chi in various ways. One that I remember is he has this technique where he moves his hands in a certain way, and he can actually give you short-term memory loss. Yeah, and he uses it a lot on the Furious Five because he wants to get out of doing chores because he's a panda and pandas are lazy. So if you were to look at all of Legends of Awesomeness, you're going to see that he has not only a lot of techniques, but he learned them in record time. Like that again, that's one of the things that made Poe so interesting as a fighter, was that he could learn things at such a quick rate, and then he's able to, as shown in this battle with Tai Long and Emperor Shen, use the situation to his advantage. So, Tai Long would hit him hard. His body could absorb things and then redirect. And his body is so rotund that he actually is immune to pressure point combat, which Poe knows and has used against people like Tigress. So he's a really good fighter and worthy of the Dragon Warrior name. And which led to his greatest lesson of all in the first movie. There is no secret ingredient. It's just you. So, who wins in a fight between the Iron Fist and the Kung Fu Panda? This is where it gets interesting because actually I thought immediately that Poe was going to win because he has the more, what do you want to call it? And this is going to sound weird, but he has the more fantastical world. All right, think about it. Uh, Poe has a lot going for him because of the three movies and the Legends of Awesomeness series, which enable him to just do ridiculous things. He fought an actual dragon and used a belly beam to kill it. But Danny Rand is no slouch. He is, of course, not just Immortal Iron Fist. He's had to face, again, some of the greatest fighters in all the Marvel Universe and has beaten more than his fair share. His techniques arguably are greater. He definitely has a better arsenal of martial arts styles because he was trained to be the living weapon versus Poe was just trained to be the Dragon Warrior via his own improvised style. And you could definitely absolutely say, that even when you try and understand the timeline of Marvel, he has more experience than Poe. All right, he was trained for well over a decade because I believe he was 9 years old when he was found by Kunlun. So he was trained for over a decade by them, versus Poe, that, for being generous here, has only been trained for a few years, versus Danny Rand, who was a decade just before he became the Iron Fist, and then years after becoming the Iron Fist. So Danny Rand definitely has the experience advantage. But it's a big, big panda butt. Danny is used to going up against martial artists of equal or lesser par and defeating them. Poe is used to being the underdog. All right, Poe is definitively always the lesser fighter, and yet he wins. And the best point of this is Tai Lung. Tai Lung, who was trained also like Danny Rand over the course of many years, was trained in like all manners of martial arts. He was able to beat Tai Lung. Po was able to beat Tai Lung, who is, if we're being honest here, basically Iron Fist. All right, master of martial arts, has his own version of a death technique with his deadly nerve attack, which Po resisted because his rotundness only made it tickle him. Because why not? Uh, and so Po's already beaten an Iron Fist kind of character. Now, yes, you could say that um, it's not. You could say that, Danny has beaten these kinds of foes more regularly, absolutely, but Po is no slouch. Between Legends of Awesomeness and his movies, he's faced other fighters who were kung fu masters or had armaments that should be able to destroy him, like with Emperor Shen's cannons, because again, those killed kung fu masters, and yet Po was able to redirect them despite their massive size. And I was gonna make a panda joke here, but let's not. And destroy his ships. So, and again, he's trained with the Furious Five, who are all kung fu masters on their own. So they trained him. He trains with them, and then later was to teach them to be their master. And he also has chi techniques, which he's used in various ways. Um, so ironically, funnily, pendolically, that's not a word. Awesomenessly, Po actually has a lot of advantages here. All right. Now, yeah, he's gonna be he's not as disciplined as Danny Rand because of his panda ways, and he's gonna be, as we saw in the if you saw Luis's Twitter feed, they actually showed a very small clip of it, and he's in awe of Danny, and he would be. But once the fight gets started, he's a very serious fighter, and he's able to use the situation and his opponent's energy against him to go and win. And then there is the Wushi finger hold. This is a little tricky, and obviously I can't confirm that this is what would happen, but the Wushi finger hold is a kill technique. All right, they don't state that overtly, but it is a spirit technique in which you are transported to the spirit realm, which is where you go when you die. And this is how he beat Tai Lung. Was he used a Wushi finger hold and transported him to the spirit realm, and then he used it on himself and Kai in an overt way. In a it's tricky, but let's just say he killed himself to go and get Kai into the spirit world, and then he defeated him there using the golden dragon chi technique that I mentioned earlier. So technically speaking, he could use the Wushi finger hold to transport Danny to the spirit realm, where Danny has gone before, but he always needed help getting back. Yes, it is stated that at times Danny has been able to bridge dimensions with his chi, but that's the afterlife, not an actual other it's again, this is where it gets tricky. It's very much a Wonder Woman lifting Mjolnir kind of situation, because Poe would be sending Danny to the afterlife, but could Danny come back for the afterlife on his own? Based on my knowledge, he cannot. So as long as he gets that one chance to use the Wushi finger hold, he wins. And I listed that last just because I know that this is a tricky situation. But I think that even without the Wushi finger hold, with his own techniques, with his own opponents that he's fought, I think Po actually has this. All right, so I am going to choose, quite hilariously, the Kung Fu Panda to win this fight against the Iron Fist. Let the hate begin. No, I know some of you agree that Po is going to win, but with that, I'm in this episode of Todd Talk. Let me know who you think is going to win between Iron Fist and Po in the comments below. How fun do you think the fight's going to be, and who do you think's coming next? Because we're getting close to the mid-season finale. This is episode 6, so yeah, 8 is coming. So who do you think is going to be the mid-season finale, and what do you think next episode is going to be? Let me know in the comments below. So I thank you for watching. It means far I know you were listening, and I'll see you around. Skadoosh.